Hi friends and welcome back. So today we will be talking about a very deep spiritual topic which is very interesting and very mystical, which is our chakras. So the chakras, the energy and the quality of these chakras is a fundamental reality, and they affect our consciousness. They affect how we respond or react in our lives. So the first question which might come across to you is, why should I get into a deep spiritual topic like this? It's written in the scriptures, and how does it affect our day-to-day life? Well, it definitely affects each and every action that we take in the present, in this life. And it also gives us an understanding of who we are and why we are the way we are. Why we all are so unique in our temperaments, in our attitudes, in our outlook towards life. And why certain kids is born with certain tendencies, certain inclination or certain habit patterns which actually he's carrying from his past lives. And also it gives us answers, supposedly like two children who are born, a twin who's born of the same parents. They have the same upbringing, they have the same situations, they have exactly the same DNA and genetics. But how come they are so different in their outlooks in life? One might be very positive, or a person who has everything in life and still he's negative in life. And whereas one person who really does not have very good opportunities, or he's facing certain situations, but still he has a positive outlook in life. Why somebody is very ambitious and why certain people are very content with life. Or you may say, why certain people are very spiritual in nature. They are very happy within themselves, and why certain people are very materialistic and they're trying to find this happiness continuously in things outside of ourselves. So all these things we can understand once we study the science of chakras, which is a reality for all of us. And I will be taking this topic, which is a very esoteric and a very spiritual topic, but these teachings which I've learned from Paramahansa Yogananda and which was simplified in the books written by Swami Kriyananda, I will try to further simplify it and add to it my own experience and how I have been able to work with my chakras, work with the energy pattern within the chakras to make our lives more expansive and to make ourselves more happy at all times. And I will be taking this podcast into two parts. So in this first podcast, which is the part one of this series of the topic, we will be talking about what are chakras, how we form these chakras, what is an astral spine, what is the life force and the prana which is there within that astral spine. And once we understand its functioning and activity, then we'll realize how mystically or how deeply we are related with the entire creation. And in the second podcast, we will be talking about the qualities of the chakras. Each of these chakras have their own positive and negative qualities. And once we realize that, then we can easily work with our negative qualities and convert them with our own willpower and with our energy into a positive quality. So with the understanding of the chakras, we can start to recreate our reality right from the source of everything, which is our consciousness. And just to understand now, what are chakras? So just as we have a physical anatomy of this physical body, we have a skeletal structure, we have a muscular structure, and the way we have maps in this physical world, we need to know where we are going, where we have come from, what is the route like. Similarly, our soul also has a journey. It's been traveling from life after life, and all these lives, all the deep-seated habits, all the experiences are imprinted like a blueprint in our astral spine. And our various chakras, which are simply energy centers, they are located in this astral spine. So chakra is a Sanskrit word which literally means a wheel or a circle. And in the yogic science, it means a wheel of light and energy. And these chakras are located all along our astral spine. And it is not a physical reality in the sense we cannot really find out about the chakras through an X-ray machine or through a CT scan or something, but it's definitely a reality of energy and light. And as I said, chakras is what carries all our habits, all our deep-seated desires, and even certain fears which we had in our past lives. When we are born with certain inclination and certain tendencies, all these habit patterns are actually imprinted in these chakras, and we can work around with that. And that's why they are so important. So as I said, chakras are like a wheel of light and energy which is placed in our astral spine. So what is an astral spine? Okay, so we all have a physical spine, and which is like the physical column, right, running from the central axis of our bodies. And the astral spine is located slightly in front of our physical spine. We can all have a backbone which we can feel. So astral spine, which is like a hollow tube of light and energy, is placed slightly in front of that. And the chakras are placed all along the astral spine according to their level of consciousness. If they are more materialistic in terms of their nature or their habit patterns, those chakras will be located at the lower end of the spine. And if we have certain desires, certain inclinations which are more spiritual and expansive, then they will be settled down in the higher chakras. And our astral spine is the main channel of our energies to flow. It is the channel in which our prana or the life force flows. So now we come to the third thing. Now, what is prana or what is the life force? So if you will realize, we just do not survive on food, water and air. We can live without food for a couple of weeks. We can live without water. We can survive without water for a couple of days also. And we can survive without our breath for a couple of minutes also. But there is a very subtle and essential and an invisible source of energy, which is the cosmic energy. It is the energy of the creation and from the creation. And this cosmic energy is floating all around us. We are actually swimming in an ocean of this cosmic energy. And this cosmic energy enters our body through our medulla oblongata. Now, the medulla oblongata is here, right here at the base of our skulls, and we can all feel that when we just touch it here at the end of our skulls, and there is a little dent. That's the medulla oblongata. And this is where the journey of every soul actually begins. So Paramahansa Yogananda explained that whenever the ova and the sperm unites, it's at this point that the creation of our physical body actually begins. And it is also the point from where our spiritual or the astral body starts to form. And the life force actually enters from this point. And when this life force travels forward, it creates our brain and our mind. And it becomes a life force. And when that cosmic energy flows down from there, it starts to create a heart. It starts to create our astral spine and also the physical spine and all the nerve channels or the entire nervous system. And as we all know, the heartbeat appears somewhere in the 5th or 6th week of that fetus. And when that heartbeat appears, it is actually the reflection that the soul has entered the body. So our physical breath, which is the carrier of the prana, and the prana or the life force is actually the carrier of the soul. And when we define prana, we actually define prana as a combination, or it's a mix of life, energy and the breath. So when I say prana is such an essential, such an invisible source of energy, you may say when a person is alive, when he has prana in himself, he is all active and kicking. But the moment that prana leaves our body starts to disintegrate. Our bodies cannot even survive for a couple of hours. It starts to decompose, it starts to smell, and it starts to perish. That's how important that prana is. It keeps our body intact. All the cells and molecules, it's the source of energy for everything in our body. So let's talk about what are chakras then. As I said, it's a wheel of light and energy. How does it form and how does it get engraved in this astral spine? So this we can understand, and every beginning of the entire creation is through the consciousness. So let's start when we just have a consciousness. So we can trace how these chakras are formed when we start to trace the progressive stages of our consciousness. So let's say when we come across, say, a big building, at this point of time, now our consciousness has 4 aspects to it. It has a mon, buddhi, ahankar and chitta. So mon, which is our mind, buddhi, which is the intellect, ahankar is the ego, and chitta is the feeling of the heart. So whenever we come across, all these starts to react with that situation in a progressive stage. So when we come across a building, the first thing is that the eyes only reflect to the senses of sight and to the mind as a mirror what it sees. Now the mind is, as I said, it's like a mirror. It can only see what the eyes is showing. It really cannot distinguish between what it's seeing. It's only seeing the structure. At this point of time, the intellect steps in, and because of its experience, because of whatever it's been taught and knows, then it decides ki, oh, this is a building, it has windows, it has a door, it has a balcony, this is a house. Then the mind knows, oh, it's a house. And then the ego steps in at this point of time, and the ego says, either it says, oh, I own this house, or I want this house. And this is the beginning of delusion, when we do not feel complete in ourselves, the various things which we have in the world, when we want to obtain so many things to make ourselves happy. This is the third stage. And at this point of time, the feelings of the heart step in and they say, oh, I'm so happy because I own this house, or I will only be happy once I get this house. And this is the beginning of bondage. And this is also the beginning of endless karmic actions which we start creating. And we want so many things in our lives, because of so many situations or so many roles which we play. As a child, the child wants to play that, only then he will be happy. As a child, he wants to eat outside the fast food, only then he's happy. As an adult, we want certain relationships, we want certain jobs, only then we are happy. As a parent, we are happy when our child is doing well. In all these roles, every time our energy is actually happy or it's going out to various situations, to various things in our life. And all these desires, they're like tiny whirlpools. They're like a little whirlpool and the energy is circulating all around it. It's not just that, we see that car and we say, oh, I like this car. The energy goes out, it comes back and we move forward through the day. We keep thinking about that car and we start making it such a big reality in our own mind that I will only be happy when I get that car. And all our actions, then it is we have to make more money, I have to work more hard, I have to sacrifice my family, I have to put in more or find a better job for myself to get that money, to get that car. And it's just not the car, as I said, we have millions of desires, we have millions of likes, and also at the same time, we have millions of dislikes. Things which we do not want in our life. We don't want to go to a dirty place, or we don't want to go to a boring place where we'll get bored or we'll suffer so much. So every action that we do in our lives is actually towards making us more happy. And every action we also do so that we avoid suffering. It's just that we do not realize that happiness is really a state of mind. It's not in those things outside of ourselves. So as I said, these vortices, they're like the whirlpool of desires. So that energy keeps moving around that thing till the time we don't obtain that thing. And these become these little vortices or whirlpools. They settle down in our astral spine according to their own consciousness. So if our desires are more materialistic in nature, then these will settle down at the lower end of our spine, the astral spine. And if our desire are more expansive, they're more spiritual in nature, then these vortices will go and settle down to the equivalent chakras which are in the astral spine, which we've been carrying from our past life. They'll go and settle down there. So the consciousness in higher chakras is generally more spiritual. It's more expansive, it's more positive, and also it's more unitive. We realize that we all are part of this creation, and when we see someone struggling or someone happy, we also realize we don't get jealous, we don't compare ourselves, but we realize that he is going through his own journey. And at the same time, consciousness in the lower chakras is more contractive, it's more negative, it's more materialistic, and it's more separate. At this point of time, I feel I am a reality in myself, and whatever I have done or whatever I have achieved is because of my own efforts. I do not realize that there is a journey. I have been given certain circumstances, certain opportunities which have come to me because of my past karmic actions. But I affirm my ego, and that's where you start attracting also certain things in life. A more materialistic person, yes, he may attract more material opportunities and options in life, and he's really stuck there because every time you have a material desire, it's a thing which is outside of yourself. Your energy is continuously flowing outside of yourself. And when we have more spiritual desires, the energy is generally moving up towards more expansive and towards more happier state in our lives. So we may ask, what is the problem if we have all these vortices? Even if we have lower vortices, we need that house, we need that car, we need that job. What is the problem in that? So we understand, how are we happy? If you'll deeply see, whenever we get a good news, and you will realize your energy starts to flow up. And when that energy starts to flow up, it reflects in our body posture. Our chest opens up, our head lifts up, our eyes go up, and we have a smile on our face. And contrary to this, whenever we are suffering or we have a bad news and we're feeling, dejected in life, how our energy moves down, and at the same time our physical posture goes, our shoulders drop down, our head drops down, our eyes are droopy, and we have a frown on our faces. So our happiness and our suffering is actually a result of the movement of energy in our body. And naturally, our energies should always flow up for lasting happiness. But what happens is, because of these various vrittis and vortices which are accumulated because we want this, and various desires, various aversions, various likes and dislikes, the movement of energy is obstructed by these vrittis, and the energy starts to flow out in that car, in that job, in that relationship, and we start to feel only I will be happy once I get those things. But that is not the case. If we learn about how these chakras are formed, we can really work upon with that energy to make sure that all the energy is not being dissipated out, but it naturally flows up. And trust me, that energy flowing up does not mean you will not get those things. You will start to attract everything which is positive in your life. Everything which your soul actually requires. Everything you will attract which is part of your journey, and not you're diverting outside for that happiness. So many times, in this materialistic life or this plane, we feel, or how do we define success? Everyone defines success and how our personalities. If we're doing a good job, if we are making good amount of money, if we obtain everything that we desire, that is defined by success. But don't you think so? The right measure of success should be how happy we are. At the end of the day, we are getting that car, we are getting that house, we are getting that job or relationship to make ourselves happy. But that is an indirect way of getting happiness. If we have a way which can raise our energy continuously upward and we feel content and happy, that is the most direct way to reach our own higher selves and to be in a lasting state of happiness. So, our chakras is what is determined by our actions, every action that we do. And when we continuously doing that action, it forms a habit. And those habits are what gets resided in our chakras. And then when we are born with certain inclination and tendencies, that's how we respond, or that's how we react in life. And that's how also we attract our next life or situations in our lives. And then that determines our destiny. So let me share a very interesting story with you. So there was a person who was very spiritual, very expansive, and always happy. He used to help people around, and he was very giving and happy. But he had a deep-seated desire to be rich. But that desire was always very innate. It was just lying deep down in his heart somewhere. He really felt like being rich, but it did not affect his daily actions. So when he dies, he reaches heaven and he meets God. And God says, son, I'm very happy. You had a beautiful life. You really helped people and you were always happy. But I know one thing, you had a deep-seated desire for wealth. So let me give you one more life and you will be born very rich and you will be happy. So just go enjoy and come back and then you will be with me forever. So God places him in a situation where he's born in a wealthy family and he's really opulent and he gets all the things which he wants. And this person starts enjoying his life. He gets cars, he does not really need to work. He's got so much of wealth. He has so many possessions and he starts to enjoy all these things. And somehow he does not get married because he was always busy in enjoying his life with all the materialistic pleasures and all those sensual pleasures and those things in his life. By the end of his life, he starts to become very contractive because he feels, I have so much with me. I have so many properties, these cars, these yachts and experiences. What will I do with all of this when I die? It'll all go to waste. What should I do? So he really starts thinking and he gets an idea. So he calls this very big astrologer and he says, I really want to meet you. And this astrologer comes to his place. He sends his people. He comes here. And this man has a request. He asks that astrologer, I want you to meditate and tell me, look at my hand, look at my charts and tell me where will I be born in my next life. So this astrologer says, this is a very strange request. I've never heard something like this. So this person says, I know you can do it and I'm ready to pay you any amount. Just tell me where will I be born. So this astrologer says, okay, give me some time. Let me meditate on the topic and I will get back to you. So this astrologer goes and this person waits for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And finally, after 6 months, this astrologer calls him up. And he says, I really meditated, and not just once, but I've meditated a couple of times, and I have the answer, where will you be born? So this person sends his people again, and they get the astrologer to his house. And he says, tell me, where will I be born? So he says, you will be born in this village to this couple who are farmers. So this person says, are they wealthy? He said, no, they're not wealthy. You actually be born in a very poor household. So this person says, are you sure? the astrologer says that I'm 100%. I've actually intuited on this and I've received this answer as an intuition. So this person says, okay. He gives the money to the astrologer and then he writes his own will. And he wills everything which he possessed, his house, his cars, his properties, everything to this unborn child of that couple. And finally, he's totally relieved and he dies. When he dies, he again reaches heaven and God asks him, so son, how was this life of yours? So this person says, oh God, I had a beautiful life, had so much of wealth. I enjoyed myself. I also made so much of money. I had so many businesses. So God says, okay, are you ready for your next life? Oh yeah, I'm ready for my next life. And God, you really don't need to worry. I've taken care of my next life. So God says, what have you done that you can take care of your next life? He says, oh, God, I know where I will be born, what plans you made for me. And you really did not make good plans, You were sending me in a poor household. So I have built everything what I had to this family where I will be born. And I will be born rich again. So God just smiles at him and says, son, you had a very expansive consciousness that attracted a very prosperous life for you. You got a life of wealth and prosperity, but you were not leading that life in an expansive way. You had so much and you never shared. And you became contractive. And even in the end, when everyone leaves everything right there in the material plane, you became so contractive that you wanted to hoard everything and carry it on. That contractive thought, contractive consciousness has attracted a very contractive life for you. So that last action that you made that parents very rich because of your will, you are not going there. I am redirecting you to another household which will be poor. And this person is like, oh my God, this is not possible. That I am no one to do this. Everything is decided by your own consciousness, your own actions and your karmas. So it's so important to understand how our consciousness, our actions actually determines not only our present actions, but even our reincarnation. And when it determines our reincarnation, then it's our past consciousness which has affected our present life. And we have a way out if we have certain habits which we want to get rid of. If we have certain patterns which we really want to change to become more happy, then we have a way of doing this. And this is how the knowledge and the study of chakras actually help us. So chakras has a lot of aspects in relation to the entire creation. Chakras is related to the planets. It's related to all our zodiac signs. Chakras are related to the colors of the creation in terms of the Vibgyor. Each and every chakra has a distinct color and it's represented in the rainbow colors. It's violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. Each and every chakra has its own sound also. But I'm going to talk about a very essential component or an aspect of chakra which is in relation to the law of creation, of how it's related to the elements of creation. And we all know we have 5 elements of creation: earth, water, fire, air and ether. So let's understand how creation actually began. So before this physical creation existed, the only thing which existed was pure, unmoving, absolute consciousness, which we may call God and which the scriptures define as Sat Chidanand, which literally means ever existing, ever conscious and ever new bliss. And the intrinsic nature of consciousness is to express itself. So when God decided that it wanted to express itself and form a material creation, He first created a little change in that consciousness, and that consciousness vibrated a bit and it created the first element, the element of ether, which is space. It's all around us. It's the space in which resides all the galaxies, all the planets and all the stars. This ether or space is a primordial aspect of the energy, and it's still not physical. And when this primordial energy vibrated a bit, it created the first physical element of creation, which is air, and which was represented by the nebulous gases which forms galaxies. And when air vibrates, because it has a physical component, and whenever we have a physical component, we can divide those components. So even air, we can really divide it in terms of, it has oxygen, it has hydrogen, it has nitrogen. But when we talk about that space, which is all unitive, and it is an aspect of consciousness, and we really cannot divide it. So when air vibrates, which is a physical component, it vibrates and creates light, energy and heat and forms the second element, which is fire. And in terms of elements of creation, this is the third element. From ether we come to air, from air we come to fire. And when the element of fire condenses further, it creates the molten state of matter. which is represented by the element of water. And when that gets more gross and condenses further, it becomes like earth, like a rock, which is represented by the element of earth. And this we can easily see, if you just take an example of a block of ice, at that point of time, it is represented by the element of earth. It's rock solid. But the moment we apply it little energy, little heat, it starts to melt down and it comes to the element of water. And then as it boils further, it starts to create vapor. It goes to the stage of fire, and then it starts to evaporate and starts merging with the air. It releases oxygen, it releases various different components of gas, which is the element of air. And finally, all of it vanishes in the space and it merges back into the element of space. So this is really the way how spirit manifests itself into matter and how we can trace it back to the element of space or to the consciousness from where it came. So since we are part of the creation and we coming from the same creation where everything is created, the entire journey of our manifestation or our evolution from pure spirit to this material body is also imprinted in our astral spine, which is like the blueprint of the entire journey of the soul. And now I will talk about these 7 chakras which we have in our bodies, and each of these chakras I will also explain how they are associated with these elements of creation. So at the lowest point of our spine is our first chakra, which we call the Mooladhara chakra, which in English is called the coccyx center, and it is represented by the element of earth. And physically, these chakras also provide all the information and energy to the spinal plexuses, which is also located right at that point of at that place in our physical bodies. So it takes care of our excretory system, this chakra. And as we move slightly up, just say around 1.5 inches, just behind our genitals is the second chakra, which we call the Swadhisthana chakra. And in English, it's called the sacral center. And it is represented by the element of water. And this is what takes care of the reproductive system in our bodies. And as we move up slightly, just at the region of our navel, we come to the third chakra, which is called the Manipur chakra, or in English, it's called the lumbar center. And it is represented by the element of fire. And it takes care of the digestive system in our body. And as we move up further, we come to the fourth chakra, which is right here at the region of our heart, which we call the Anahat chakra, or the heart center. And it is represented by the element of air. And it takes care of our cardiovascular system. And as we come up here, right here at the throat center, this is represented by the Vishuddha chakra, which we call the cervix center. And it's represented by the element of space. And it takes care of our respiratory system. And finally, we come here at the point between our eyebrows, which is called the third eye or the spiritual center. It's in Hindi, it's called the Agya chakra, which is the doorway to super consciousness. It's also the doorway to enlightenment. This is our sixth center. And the seventh is here, right at the top of our head, which is called the Sahasrara chakra or the crown chakra. But in our study, according to Paramahansa Yogananda, we should work with these 6 chakras, which really are in our hand. And this 6th chakra, the seat of enlightenment, is what approaches the 7th chakra, which is the seat of liberation. Because he used to say, you first need to be enlightened before you get liberated. You first need to have the knowledge of everything before you get the entire freedom. And that's how important it is. And as I said before, each of these chakras have their own positive and negative qualities, because once we are created, we come under another law of creation, which is the law of duality. So each and every chakra have their own positive qualities and negative qualities, which I would be explaining in the next episode. But just to give you a hint of what I will be talking in the next episode is that, let's say we talk about the earth chakra, which is our lowest chakra. The positives of the earth chakra is that it's like earth, it's solid, it's rigid, it's what gives us determination, and it gives us the steadfastness to do certain things in our lives. But also, when I say it's rigid, it's firm, it makes us stubborn in our life. It makes us very rigid. We're not receptive, we're not open to people's suggestions and everything. And also, consciousness at that chakra is very materialistic. Everything is going out from those chakras to materialistic pleasures like sleeping, eating, mating. You have a consciousness for materialistic things like that big car. You want more spices in your food. Everything is very animalistic at that level. But there is a way out. As I said, we can move that energy from within ourselves with our own willpower and with our own life force, and we can turn all those negative qualities into a positive qualities. And this is we're going to discuss in the next episode. So understanding the qualities of the chakras, both the positive and negatives, gives us a deeper understanding about our own temperament, our own inclinations, and why we react or why we respond to certain situations in a certain way, and we can change ourselves. So if you found this episode interesting, please do share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe, because then you will get a reminder of the next episodes. And every episode which I'm creating is for that you become more conscious of your every step you take in your life, because every conscious step takes you to a higher reality of your own self. Until then, take care, be well. This is Dhruv from The Conscious Way. Thank you.